Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about a much asked for topic, which is all about menopause. And all of your questions about menopause are going to be answered, or at least I'll start to try to answer them today. And one of the most overarching questions that you guys ask is, how does pro-metabolic eating work for somebody who is menopausal or perimenopausal or postmenopausal? And I want to dig a little bit deeper into menopause instead of just saying like, yes, you can eat this way, or no, you can't eat this way, because there's a little bit more to it, as there is to most things, right? But before we get started, I just wanted to say welcome back to the YouTube channel. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Jessica Ash. I'm a functional nutritionist and just a general hormone nerd. I really love educating you about your physiology and your biology so you can kind of take these biological truths, really learn to understand your body, and then take that information and apply it to your life in really action-based steps so you can have a better quality of life and you can actually see in real time your physiology changing before your very eyes. If you like what I talk about in my videos, remember I have my signature course, Fully Nourished, which is really a blueprint for using nutrition to really balance your hormones and restore your metabolism using food, real food, and nutritional strategies. So I hope you'll check that out if you're kind of looking for more of an action-based approach rather than just learning more information. But let's dive into menopause. So I think that probably 30% of my questions coming in right now are on menopause and from you maturing ladies. Now, before you're like, oh gosh, like this little jerk just called me a maturing lady, I just want to remind you, even though I'm not there yet, I will be one day. And so, I think we live in a culture and a society which really fears aging. We do everything we can not to age, and we don't respect elders, and it's kind of a cultural thing, and so we kind of look down on them, we pity them, we think, oh, they're so cute, like a little baby, and I'm like, that is so disrespectful. There is a really deep disrespect in our culture for the elderly and also just aging in general, and we do everything we can to erase it and to try to ignore it's happening. And the fact is, it's still happening. Even if we try to cover it up in Botox and facelifts and all of the newest current, $100 products, it's still happening inside. And we can't stop time. Doesn't that suck? Like, it just sucks, right? And I think it's really important when I start to talk about this to kind of like use that as context for our whole conversation, because a lot of the attitudes and the comments I hear from women about menopause are really, really negative. And I understand a lot of you are having a really hard time with the hormonal shifts and changes. I completely understand that. But I see an overarching, almost like a denial and also a general distaste. Like it's looked down upon to go through menopause. And if you look at movies, media, really anything, they're going to portray youthful women as beautiful, and they always use older women as something negative, right? And they always portray menopause as being something that is negative. And so our society has a general attitude that menopause is a negative thing. And I think if we're going into that stage of life, just our cells are permeated with that idea. It's literally on our brain 24/7. We're trying to reject it, deny it. We don't want it to happen. We're fighting it. Our body's gonna feel that, don't you think? So just an interesting thought before we get started, because I think it's a very important thing to bring up, and I don't think enough people are bringing it up. I think a lot of people are bringing up, the hormone stuff and the supplement stuff, and they're talking about all of the health stuff, but they're not telling women to reshape their mindset around their bodies. And you guys know that I talk often a lot about, reshaping your mindset around your body and how you care for your body and see your body and just your general body image. and really practicing kind of body neutrality and body care. But I think this really does translate into kind of a different arena when it comes to menopause, and it's just as important then. To hate your body for going through these changes is really going to make these changes very difficult, almost like swimming upstream. So I just want to bring that up. And a lot of your guys' questions around, if pro-metabolic eating and menopause is, will pro-metabolic work for me? Or, if you're referring to my course, will Fully Nourished work for me, in this stage of life? And I think the better question is to look at what to really focus on when you go through menopause, or before you go through menopause, or as you're starting to transition, and then as you've gone through menopause and beyond, looking at what your body needs and what really to focus your priorities on. I think that's really, really important. And there are some differences, of course, between a cycling woman and a woman that's entering the menopausal stage or has already gone through menopause. But at the same time, nourishment and getting the appropriate nutrients is really appropriate for all stages of life. I mean, I can't really tell you a stage of life where proper nourishment, blood sugar balance and getting enough fat soluble vitamins and supporting your adrenals using minerals and balancing your protein and carbs and getting high quality fats. I really can't see a season of life where that's not appropriate. And focusing on lowering stress and really supporting those foundations like sleep, I really don't see a situation where that wouldn't be appropriate, but I think it's especially appropriate when we go through menopause, and you'll know why as I kind of go through this video. So today I'm going to talk about 6 points on menopause that I kind of want to bring up to you. There's obviously a lot more, and I really am interested in your guys' questions, so make sure to comment below if you guys have more questions or what topic, if I mentioned something that you want more on. I am considering making a resource that goes a little bit in depth specifically for you, so please kind of let me know what your biggest questions are, but I'll talk a little bit more about that at the end of the video. But let's go over these 6 points that I really want you to understand in the here and now. So the first thing, like I just hit on before, is your mindset. I can't tell you how many messages I've got saying menopause is hell, or I'm in hell, or menopause sucks, or I just put on 20 pounds and I hate it, or menopause is the worst. And I really never have heard somebody tell me like, hey, these changes, I've really been like working to support my body through these changes, and although it's been, up and down, I really am seeing that my body is responding to the support, and I've been trying to manage my stress. I don't really ever see themes like that, and maybe it's just because those people are not reaching out to me, but I really do want to bring up to you that how we talk to our body and how we talk to ourselves matters. And our nervous system is responding to what we're thinking constantly. And I try to reiterate this again and again on body image, but I think this menopause transition really goes into this. You cannot create a low stress environment when you're literally living with the enemy. So in your mind, if you have decided that your body is your enemy, you will never be at rest. You will constantly be in fight or flight. And maybe you're thinking like, well, who cares? Like, I hate this. Remember that when you're stuck in fight or flight, your adrenal hormones or your survival hormones really shift into a different place that really hurts the balance of your reproductive hormones. And so you can already imagine that that's already in a kind of delicate place. You don't want to add more fuel to the fire. So I want to bring this up first because I think that even if you hit every other physical point and nourish your body properly and appropriately, and you are like doing all of the things, but you didn't fix your mindset, you probably would still have some type of symptoms or some type of problems, because that's just how the body works. And The body doesn't really like to be told that it's hated or disrespected. That really is you talking to yourself, right? And I always say, like, it's really important to talk to your body as you would a dear friend or even a child. And if you find yourself saying things or even thinking things that you wouldn't say about your friend or you wouldn't say about your child, then it's probably a good idea to reshape it. And it's okay to feel what you're feeling, right? It's okay to grieve. It's okay to feel those emotions, but you don't want to constantly put yourself down. So it's okay to say, hey, you know what? I'm feeling really sad about my body changing, or I'm feeling really mad that I have to go through these changes, but my body is amazing and it's supporting me. Or, just kind of reshape the way that you are seeing your body and reminding yourself that your body is there for your own good. And if that's really hard for you, or you have a lot of hangups around like getting older or going through this transition, I highly recommend to all my perimenopausal and menopausal clients to go and find an emotional freedom technique practitioner, EFT, to do some tapping, to get those emotions out and to get those emotions flowing. It can just be so toxic to have that stuff kind of stored inside of you, not moving, not getting out, and it can really affect just how you're feeling on a day-to-day basis. So once you've acknowledged your mindset, let's talk about looking at menopause in context with your cycling years. So it's really funny to me how, menopausal women kind of talk about themselves like they're like this like alien creature. Like, well, I don't have a cycle anymore, so I am like, I am completely different. And yes, the hormonal profile that you now have is very different than during your cycling years, but you're not like this like alien creature. And, a lot of us think that how our cycles were is completely separate from how our menopause is going to go, but this is not true. And I find that a lot of women who didn't treat themselves well in their 20s, their 30s, their 40s, into their 50s have a much harder menopause than women who are supporting themselves and nourishing themselves, even, if they're in their late 30s or 40s. Because think about it this way. When you go through menopause, you are now relying on your adrenal glands and your thyroid to pick up the slack of your ovaries, because at some point during the menopausal process, the production of those hormones is going to come from a different place and be much, much lower. And so it's very important to remember that the adrenal glands and the thyroid have a high need for nutrients, right? They also require, I don't want to say a low stress environment, but an environment that you're balancing your stress with rest, right? And a lot of us can look at our past and say, oh, you know what? I'm realizing why I'm having such a hard time now. It's because I haven't really taken care of myself for the past 10 years or 15 years. But a lot of women who are maybe perimenopausal or menopausal or even postmenopausal and are having a hard time, they're treating their menopause as if it's a completely separate thing from how they treated themselves during their cycling years, or how their cycling years went, or even how their periods went. And even if they ovulated or not, that is going to have a direct impact on how you feel now. Just like I talk about to all the cycling women that I educate on my page, and I say, it's kind of this rollover effect about how last month is going to affect this month, and this month is going to affect next month, and it really builds on itself, kind of like a snowball. And if that snowball is building and building and building and building for years and years and years until menopause comes around, that snowball is going to keep going. It's just going to look different for you because now you're going through this transition as well. And so take where you're at now. So if you're perimenopausal or menopausal or postmenopausal, you are here now, right? We can't say like, well, I wish I would have done it different, or, have a lot of regret. It just is what it is. But take where you're at now and use this as, okay, it's time for me to really, really start taking care of myself. Because if our menopause is very, very difficult and this transition is very, very up and down and feels just out of control, it's our body saying that it's not having the nutrients it needs to deal with this transition. It's not having the support or the environment it needs to deal with this transition. And you're probably like, wait, Jessica, are you saying that maybe menopause doesn't have to be so hard? And I'm saying that why is it so easy for some people and why is it so hard for others? It's not just like some like magic. Some people have different habits than other people. Some people have different nutrient stores than other people. Everyone is coming from a different place. And so we have to look at this transition as just another stressor on the body. And it is a big shift. And when you're shifting from relying on that hypothalamic, pituitary, ovarian, adrenal, thyroid axis to really kind of more losing that ovarian part of the axis, it's a big tilt. It's a big shift. So just like I say with my pregnant ladies, how you go into pregnancy is going to determine how you come out of it. I'm going to say the same for you. How you came into perimenopause and menopause is really going to affect how you come out of it. But wherever you're at now, it's a good idea to start now. Start now with those really good habits. The next thing I want to bring up is I think it's really important to not just assume that you're estrogen deficient automatically. I see this being done a lot in the functional medicine space. A lot of naturopathic physicians are doing it. A lot of kind of like functional doctors, they kind of have this like cookie cutter approach to women who start to go through perimenopause, and they just go in with the assumption that a perimenopausal woman is going to be estrogen deficient, testosterone deficient, and progesterone deficient, and possibly thyroid deficient. And I often see like those 4 hormones being given out just like boom, 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 boom. And it's just kind of like this cookie cutter approach. And it's really interesting to me because estrogen really is shifting once you start to go through perimenopause. And estrogen's actually going up and down constantly. And so if you get a blood test one day and it says your estrogen is low, it very well could be high the next week. And it's very important to keep that in mind. Many perimenopausal women are really having this constant up down of estrogen, but they're not ovulating as regularly, so they're often becoming more and more progesterone deficient over time. So it's actually leading to oftentimes an estrogen dominance at least at some points in time. And I often see women being put on bioidentical estrogen automatically without this understanding that estrogen can possibly be going low and high and low and high for those years during perimenopause or however long perimenopause is taking. And they're getting either pellets or cream, and it's actually making their estrogen dominant symptoms worse. And I've also seen weight gain as a result of it. I had one client who she was put on all 4 of those hormones just automatically. And after 6 months of taking them, she had gained almost 40 pounds. And her doctor didn't bring up the estrogen at all. And I had said, why don't you get a Dutch test ran and, maybe approach your doctor and say, hey, is it possible that I'm estrogen dominant? And sure enough, there were times when her estrogen was just, like sky high. And so here she was supplementing estrogen, and on top of her estrogen at some points, her own innate estrogen being super elevated, and she didn't even have enough progesterone to balance it out because she was only taking so much bioidentical progesterone. And then remember, testosterone also has an affinity for turning into estrogen when the liver's not working very well. So, testosterone supplementation can also become very estrogenic if the body doesn't have the right nutrient support. So it's just very important to understand women's physiology before just blindly slapping hormones on somebody. And I love reading Dr. Pete's work on this. He has 2 articles on his website, raypete.com, which is Menopause and Its Causes and Estrogen and Menopause, which I highly recommend any woman read if she's like, wait, I I thought all perimenopausal and menopausal women were estrogen deficient. His work really catapulted my research and snowballed my research to do more digging on that assumption. And even the first 4 years after you've gone through menopause and actually has stopped cycling altogether, there can still be this kind of estrogen dominance occurring because one is so progesterone deficient. And so it's just a very interesting perspective to have because I've seen this firsthand, and I find that the approach is often lacking when it comes to just using bioidentical hormones. Now, do I think that bioidentical hormones are bad? No, I think that they can be great tools. I just think they need to be used appropriately and in context with physiology. They're not the only things that are going to support this transition. And you're probably like, well, what's going to support this transition? And I think the number one thing that somebody who is going through this transition needs to be concerned with is their protein intake and their exercise. Because after the age of 40, our ability to build muscle really goes down. And as we get older and older, our ability to synthesize protein goes down. So even though we're eating, let's say 140 grams of protein, we're using less of that than when we were 20, 30, and 40. And so it's very important to make sure that we're eating adequate amounts of protein and really experimenting around with an appropriate amount for our bodies and really looking at our protein intake in context with our menopause symptoms. Because protein does have a hormone detoxification effect in the liver. It supports the liver. Remember that thyroid hormone is built from protein. And there are specific amino acids like leucine, for example, that can directly support estrogen dominance. So we need to be very, very good about eating plenty of protein, which is often the macronutrient that women are not very good at getting enough of. And then, to flip over to exercise, strength training is so important for somebody going through this transition because it's very important to really build muscle because we no longer have the support of our sex hormones, or at some point we will no longer have the support of our sex hormones to keep us in this kind of anabolic place. And so building muscle can really help encourage the body to keep tissue around and build more tissue. And so not only is it super healthy for your bones and super healthy for longevity and just general movement and stability, but it's also going to help you look your best as well. And the more muscle tissue we have, the better we are at, burning body fat and using calories at rest. And so it's very important because it's harder to build muscle as you get older. It's really important to exercise strategically. So weight training can be very helpful, or just strength training in general can be very helpful, as well as some high intensity type plyometric type exercise thrown in there. So a little bit more high intensity exercise if your adrenals can handle it, meaning it doesn't throw you into just a stressed out state, like you can't sleep at night or you feel super stressed and flustered or you're getting hot flashes. If you can handle some high intensity here and there, and I'm talking about just a little bit sprinkled in, that can really help with longevity and also just supporting your metabolism as a whole. So protein, strength training with some high intensity work thrown in can be really, really supportive as long as the adrenals can handle it. And that really leads me to my next point, which is love on those adrenals, which means love on those minerals and balance your blood sugar. So, I reiterate this home over and over again to my audience, and you are no different. You are not a different situation. And it's so important for you to realize this. It's just as important for you to be getting protein, carb, and fat every couple of hours and keeping your blood sugar stable so that your adrenals don't have to break you down for fuel. But it doesn't stop there. It's so important for you to be getting enough minerals, specifically things like sodium, potassium, magnesium, calcium, and then all your trace minerals as well. And really, instead of supplementing these foods, which can be okay in some cases, really making sure that your diet is really nutrient dense and you're getting a wide variety of these nutrients from bioavailable, and nutrient-dense sources. And the reason why this is really important is because as you go through a transition of no longer cycling, like I talked about earlier, that HPA-T axis, that hypothalamic pituitary adrenal thyroid axis, is now going to take the brunt of the metabolic work. And so we need to make sure our adrenals are supported. I'm pointing back because they're like they sit on top of your kidneys. And we want to make sure our thyroid is supported well as well. And both of those glands really thrive on nutrients, and they do really well when they're supported with the right macronutrients as well. This is why I really emphasize getting enough protein, but with the adrenals, we also want to find our tolerance for carbohydrates. Now, sometimes women, as they go through perimenopause and menopause, they maybe need a little less carbohydrate in the diet or just a little less calories overall, depending on the activity level. But we still need to make sure we're getting enough. And, just because you're no longer cycling doesn't mean you can start to drink coffee on an empty stomach and kind of sporadically eat throughout the day. And I know a lot of women will say like, oh, but I need to lose weight, and so I'm just not going to eat for a while. That's the worst thing you can do. You really want to be supporting your body and eating every couple of hours, balancing that blood sugar, because it's so good for your adrenals and your thyroid. And it will keep your metabolism supported as it goes through this kind of shift. And then the last point I want to bring up, to not make this talk just super, super long, is remember that once you're missing a bleed or missing a period, you're missing that monthly iron detox. And remember, a lot of us, especially women who have eaten fortified foods, taken synthetic vitamin C, ascorbic acid a lot, zinc supplements, anything that's going to deplete bioavailable copper. And then on top of that, eating a lot of fortified or foods fortified with iron, any type of bread or cereal products, that iron often accumulates in our tissues. And if we haven't done a good job of providing our body with the appropriate nutrients to deal with that iron and to make our copper more bioavailable, what can happen is that iron can accumulate in tissues like the bones, the liver, the kidneys, and it can lead to joint pain. It's also, it's very hard on the metabolism and the thyroid, and so it can really slow down metabolism. And women, we have this built-in way of detoxing iron every month by bleeding, but once women stop bleeding, they often see an upkick in issues within a year or two, specifically autoimmune type issues, joint pain, weight gain, skin type issues, metabolism issues, thyroid issues. And I think that it's partially due to the accumulation of iron with really no outlet. And so a great way to both help somebody and to help yourself is to donate blood if that's possible for you. I think it's a great practice. I personally do it every quarter, and obviously it's something you want to ask your doctor about, but I think that can be a great practice for just generally forcing the body to do some renewal, but also getting some of that iron out so your body can pull some new iron into the RES, which is your iron recycling system, and make room for some other nutrients. If you're looking for more information on the iron stuff, I highly recommend checking out Morley Robbins at the Root Cause Protocol for more information on that stuff. Now, I know a lot of you are going to ask about bioidentical progesterone, and I know I just touched on bioidentical hormone replacement. And like I said before, my opinion is really that you should do what you think is right for you and what you believe in your gut to be true and what you decide between you and your doctor. I just think it's important to go in with some general understanding of your physiology. That's why I gave you those articles earlier. And to know that hormones aren't everything. They can be an incredible tool and they can definitely make people feel better, but at the same time, they don't fix everything and they don't cover a lack of nutrients, good nutrition, or a good lifestyle. But I really do want to talk about or highlight bioidentical progesterone because like I said before, when you start to go through perimenopause, estrogen kind of starts to go up and down, but progesterone often starts to decline at a pretty rapid rate. And during the times of estrogen dominance, that progesterone deficiency is really going to scream at you. And I think for some women, it might be a good idea going through perimenopause to possibly research and look into and ask their practitioner about using bioidentical progesterone as a tool to keep them more balanced and feeling really good. Because on those times where the estrogen's going really low, it can bring on that follicle stimulating hormone, which is a vasodilator and can give you those like hot flashes. And then when it's really, really high, it's going to make you, it's going to suppress thyroid function and make you feel really, really cold. And just generally, it's going to make you feel up and down. Whereas progesterone really has that like thyroid supportive effect, that anti-stress effect. And so I think that can be something, a really helpful tool for women to explore, especially at that phase. And then if you've recently entered menopause, meaning you just stopped cycling, there still is a possibility for some estrogen dominance there for some people. I'm not saying this is true for all people. I'm just saying depending on their habits and their own unique body, the amount of body fat they have, the amount of tissues they have that are making estrogen, some of them can still feel very estrogen dominant. And so sometimes I think that bioidentical progesterone can again be a good tool to explore for some women to see if that helps create a little bit more balance. And again, talking to the appropriate practitioner and making that decision with them is a really good idea. But overall, there's really no perfect way to do menopause. But I think a pretty good way to do it is to support your body, support your mental health, nourish yourself, meaning, if your body's shifting, maybe you're gaining a little bit more weight, it doesn't mean, go all day without eating. Instead, make better choices, support your blood sugar, support your adrenals with the right nutrition, and eat foods that your body needs to function. Don't make this transition harder for the body. Also, take it as a cue to maybe start to slow down a little. I know like some people get really offended when you say like, slow down, like I'm not old. And it's like, I'm not saying you're old. I'm just saying that you've probably done a lot in your life, and most women who are going through menopause have raised children, have sacrificed so much for their families, have done so much over the years that it's time for them to focus on themselves a little bit more and to say no a little bit more and to just prioritize balancing themselves and finding their new equilibrium through the transition. And it's okay to just slow down and take some steps to lower stress and find what this new you needs and treat it as a new beginning. Treat it as a new season, a new chapter, and try to encourage yourself to look at it with excitement rather than dread. Saying like, I don't have to do what I did before. It's time for me to do what I need now. And I think that can be a really fun exploration of getting to know your body better and learning this new body. And I feel like, as we go through the different phases of life, when we go through puberty, we go through those really uncomfortable changes. And then when we go through pregnancy, we go through some new kind of like exciting but also uncomfortable changes. When we start breastfeeding, we kind of are exploring new parts of our body that we didn't even know existed, and that's a constant discovery throughout our lives. The female body is such a magical thing, right? It's always shifting and changing, and it's not a statue, and this time in your life is no different, right? And so treat it as a new exploration of this kind of new chapter in your life. And I think that is the way to do menopause well. But like I said, there's no right way or wrong way. I just think that there is a better way to do it so that you can have a better quality of life through it all. Now, a lot of you guys ask me if fully nourished is appropriate for women who are either perimenopausal or going through menopause or have gone through menopause. And I will say that we have had many women in various stages of menopause go through fully nourished, just knowing that some of the education is geared towards cycling women, but it doesn't mean that none of the information is applicable to you. And we've seen, those students as well as just many followers who are in various stages of menopause. We've seen so much success with them implementing the techniques that I talk about, things like balancing blood sugar, getting enough of the right nutrients, minerals, fat-soluble vitamins, managing stress and changing the way that you're looking at your body. But specifically, they've seen a lot of success with really focusing in on macronutrients and making sure they're getting plenty of protein and making sure they're implementing strength training. So can Fully Nourished help you? I do believe that nourishment and learning about food is appropriate for every season of life. But I am also working on some resources that will be available in the future to help you better tailor Fully Nourished towards you in your stage of life. So just stay tuned for that. I've heard your desires and your wants and your questions, and I continue to be interested in what you guys want to know. But until then, remember that you're not some, completely different creature. You just probably need to give your body some extra support, some extra love, some extra care and attention, and just be gentle with it through the process. I hope this was helpful, and I'll see you guys in the next video.